When a hi-fi vendor forgets to ask themselves why they want to create a new product and just create a list of feature checkboxes to be checked, the result becomes a product like this. The Eversolo DMP6 will on paper do almost everything, but in reality, it's such a crappy user experience that you will end up using it as a simple endpoint with fancy blinking lights before you move on to the next streamer in line, hoping it will liberate your music collection and let you rediscover it in interesting ways. In short, the Eversolo is yet a perfect example of Asian software-driven products ending up with insane complexity in the pursuit of doing everything.
Everything!
Resulting in being bad at most. In this video I give a couple of examples and cut through all the hype and theater of the Eversolo products and talk about the hideous user experience that awaits you if you want anything but endpoint basics from it. As there are so many other reviews going through the DMP6 in great detail, I won't bore you with yet another walkthrough. I also waited quite some time to do this review, as the company has been good at releasing software updates on an ongoing basis. The software at the time of review is version 1.2.50. Okay, so let's first try to define what it takes to make a great user experience. To me, quick, simple, direct and inspiring access to my actual music is definitely at the top. This entails as few interactions as possible to the things I use the most. It's quite simple really. A couple of playlists, a few radio stations is what most people use every day, right? A product like the Bluesound Note X here totally nails that part with its 5 preset buttons at the top of the user interface, demonstrating that the company understood that one of their core values is music convenience. The result is that it takes 1 second to play back the things you use the most. Interacting with the Eversolo, on the other hand, it quickly becomes clear that music was the last thing on the designer's mind. The latest update here even provide launcher widgets to access functions quicker from the front page. Nothing to do with music. It's simply a patch on a patch trying to compensate for the insane complexity that is inherent in the product. Something that should not have been there in the first place. All it does is removing one tab, so you can go directly to your streaming service of choice or your UPnP page instead of having to first tap, for instance, music or streaming first. You end up asking yourself, why haven't you just used this for useful things like your favorite radio station, your favorite playlist, or whatever you use every day? That's the kind of complexity I'm talking about. This is a solution to a non-existent problem and wasting good space that could be used if you understood what customers are doing every day. Don't get me wrong here. I don't mind having lots of functionality in a product, allowing it to adapt to my needs as they change over time. The problem is dragging users down with all the choice all the time. The launcher widget here is a good example of this way of thinking, where you, in order to reduce complexity, like having to go through several menus to find, say, your title music, adds more complexity. It's a bit like bureaucracy in public management. The same thing could be achieved by simply letting users remove all the things they don't use and then enable them as needed. You see? I believe that this way of thinking might be rooted in Asian culture as such. You also see it in cars, where the designers of Asian electric cars, for example, tend to give the user so many options to do the same thing, like they're afraid of making any decisions about it themselves. It just takes comparing, say, a Tesla, which provides what I would call intelligent minimalism, with a Hyundai Ioniq 5 that ends up having 3 screens and buttons and paddles and knobs and switches all over the place to do less than the Tesla.
So anyways, the sound system sucks?
Why? The culture seems to dictate to give the customer everything they think they want from a logical standpoint. Yes, people, this way of thinking is what will ultimately produce an electric car that has no need for a gearbox, having a manual gearbox. You just can't make up these things. Before I throw this thing in the garbage bin, let me show you how the DMP6 will handle your file-based music. This could be all your lovely CDs that you ripped for convenience, as well as your music files that you really look forward to have organized in a delicious, smart, convenient way, right? The ability to play back high-resolution music files on the device itself is in fact the ultimate playback method in terms of ensuring absolute source quality. Here the DMP6 offers the ability to install the fastest storage device available, so you can store, say, big DSD files locally and build a local music library. The task requires pulling metadata from music databases on the internet, like the Gracenote database, in order to index and identify all your music correctly, adding cover art and so on. Here's an example of my library indexed by a Bluesound Node X. As you can see, not all cover art is showing, even though they exist in the databases, but at least it's quite fast to search. Let's say I want to play Diana Krall's Wallflower album. Let's search here. Boom, pretty fast, right? You can also switch the search to your streaming service like Tidal here. Boom. Or let's try it on the discontinued Sony HAP Z1 player. This is a 10-year-old file-playing music device, but it does a really great job at both indexing and searching, while providing new ways of discovering your files through the SenseMe channels. It's super fast too. Be sure to check out the review I did on it right here. Any company with a vision to build something great would have picked the best ideas from some of these products and made them even better, won't you think? So let's find the Wallflower high-res files on the Eversolo in comparison. The most logical thing would be to tap Music and Albums. Oh, we're already here. And then let's go and find the W here. It starts with A. And over here I can see A, B, C, D. Where's the rest of the letters? Oh, that's not fast. And note how many missing cover arts we got here. This is pretty commercial music, so of course the covers are available, but this machine has been having, 6 months to index my collection, and this is where we're at. Great. So I can only select letters down to D. Oh, now it loads the next 4 letters. And now I'm at H, and you see what I'm getting at here? This is the most uninspiring way of browsing your local music I ever experienced, okay? We're still at H. Let's see. Oh, now we can go to N. I'm going to W, so. Okay, so let's forget that. Let's try to just search for Wallflower instead. There's a search function here, and I go Wallflower. That should be enough. And here we get the album. Wallflower, thank you very much. And now we play the album. A sickening experience, and just a total lack of attention to detail in my world. On the unit itself here, we could go to music like this, And there's a little hidden tab over here, which is okay when you get used to that. And then we go for the albums. That was the same thing we did there on the app. But have a look at this. Still reloading. Oh, now I selected artists. That's another thing. The display is actually a little too small. It's like the vendors here, when you're used to something like a tablet computer, like an iPad or something like that, and the responsiveness there, that's the level you need on a product like this in order to be happy interacting with it, right? It's just reloading. Yeah, great. So actually browsing the albums covers here, forget about it. Yeah, forget about it. It sucks. Big time. Fortunately, you can search and find specific things, but the system can also shuffle a playlist or a genre of music, but there's no creative options like discovering moods like the Sense Me channels on the HAP Z1 or the quite handicapped mood system on the Cocktail X45 Pro. The messy experience here is just one of many. The Eversolo software has a lot of limitations and things you can do wrong due to the design basics. Even the management of the outputs and inputs ended up being complicated and will have you guessing what is wrong all the time if you use the unit actively for different things or, God forbid, as a preamp. Let me give you a quick example of this. Say you want to use the Eversolo as a DAC. It has a great DAC inside. You would do that by pressing source and then select your input. Here we go for the coaxial input, okay? Later you might want to hear music stored on the device or use a streaming service. In fact, let's just play some radio here using the fancy shortcut there and then start radio playback. It's playing. But no sound is heard. Why? Why?
Why?
The reason being that the DMP6 does not automatically just switch back to the internal player. Yes. And it has no real indication of being in some other mode to the novice that will end up frustrated trying to figure out why there's no sound, right?
But the people are retarded.
All Eversolo needed to do to give us a much better experience was to always switch to the internal player whenever it's needed. One of the hardest problems to get right actually is simplicity. Music equipment should feel like an appliance that will produce music with only one click if possible. That's not the same as saying that the product should not be flexible or having advanced possibilities. It's a matter of simple prioritization and user focus, something that seems easy, natural and logic when it's done right, even though it's clearly very hard to do, as simplicity requires intelligence. My recommendation is to manage expectations if wanting to buy the Eversolo. It's great as a streaming endpoint used with Roon or Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect and AirPlay, Google Cast and Internet Radio and so on, and will show you cover art and fancy view meters and such. It also sounds really great for the money. Just don't expect a empowering music discovering experience or doing anything quickly or smart on the device itself, or using it as a resting place for your file-based music. That's ridiculous. And that's actually all I have to say about that. Now you're warned about its shortcomings. And one last thing.
Please do help me with my rucksack.
Do you want more honest reviews in the future?
Oh yeah, sure, why not?
Then consider supporting me through Patreon. It allows me to spend more time on the channel and buying the gear when necessary. Become a producer of the show. It makes a huge difference. Find my link to Patreon on the link tree in the description below. If you appreciate the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe by ever so gently tap on those like and subscribe thingies. Thank you for watching, and remember, you will know everything if you just listen. See you soon.
One scotch, one bourbon, one beer.
one scotch, one bourbon, one beer.
Please to help me with my rucksack.
Please, Mr. Bartender, listen here. I ain't here for trouble and have no fear. One scotch, one bourbon, one beer. I don't want soda, no bubble gum. You got what I want, just serve me some. Since my baby's been gone, everything's lost. I'm on this kick and I can't get off. One scotch, one bourbon, one beer. One scotch,